Hey, you, Nina here. You are officially listening to Triggered. Can we play with that? Wherever you get your podcasts. You might also be watching us on YouTube. Hey, today's episode is a fire episode with the host of the radio show Fire. We have Lakeithia Yielded here today. She is going to be exploring relationships with moms having different capacity, and everybody who seems to have an opinion on how people relate to their mothers. So if you have some mama drama in your life, if you are trying to play with the mother wound, if you have a rupture in your relationship with your mother and you are seeking to play with that and potentially redefine your relationship with your mother, whether they're here on this earth or not, folks, this episode may be for you. It is an incredibly passionate episode. So if passion is something that is triggering for you, take a breath on now. If you are listening and you want your mom to listen, and heck, we talk about a mom today. If that mom is listening, may you continue to listen in with an open mind and an open heart to what might be possible. That's it. Just to be curious about what other ways of existing in this world might be possible if we only owned our truth. You're going to hear a lot about owning your own truth in today's episode. And so what I'm now inviting you to do is grab your journal or a really good friend to dialogue with about what comes up for you in this episode. Y'all know we want to transform hard conversations into teachable moments. How are you going to do that? You need to take some notes. You need to click save, right? You got to be able to have capacity enough to explore this material. And woo, do we have some great material for you today? I'm not exactly sure when we're going to air this episode, but I think it's going to be in February, in which we are going to be exploring different ways of loving. And sometimes loving from a distance is the safest way to love for you and for the other person. So get your journal, get your good friend, because you know at this point in the episode, before we go into stories, before we go into psychoeducation, and before we go into the challenges that I may give you for your upcoming week, you know I want to know and am curious. Are you ready to play? Welcome to Triggered. Can we play with that? You know that moment when your emotions ramp up in an instant, leaving you feeling helpless, frozen, or out of control? In that moment, you've been emotionally hijacked, the very definition of triggered. And I want to ask you, can we play with that? I'm Nina L. Garcia, drama therapist and empowerment coach of Houston Creative Arts Therapy. Join me as we discover ways to empower you and the people who mean the most to you, to transform hard conversations into teachable moments. Triggered. Real playful, real respectful, real empowered. Let's take a breath. Welcome, Yielded.
Well, hello. Thank you.
Okay, so y'all, you have an incredible episode. I haven't even experienced it yet, but I can tell it's going to be an incredible episode because we have the incredible energy of Yielded here. If you do not know Yielded, get ready. Okay, folks, before we launch in, here's what we're going to start with. We are going to start with setting the intent to this episode. Okay, consent and building a culture of consent, incredibly important to me and everybody listening on this podcast. So let's go ahead and set that, right? We are going to have a human to human conversation here. Things could get sticky, things could get uncomfortable, but I'm going to come intentionally from a place of respect, as well as all our guests, right? Yielded's going to come intentionally from a place of respect. We don't know what the impact is going to be, but we know what the intention is. So we're setting out to transform hard conversations into teachable moments. Are you ready to go into this territory with me, Yielded?
Let's go.
Okay, let's do it. Okay. Okay, I am going to pass the ball on over to you for you to share, an intro to you, right? Your identities, the roles that are important to you, right? Representation matters. What's important to you in this moment? What do you want the audience to know?
Well, I want everyone to know that, first of all, I am a mom. And so this is going to be a hard conversation, a hard topic, because we think of mothers in different capacities. And I'm a mother of two, have a 24-year-old that's serving in the United States Army. I have a 15-year-old that is serving in my kitchen and eating all my groceries. But yes, and just a nurse of 22 years. And so definitely have a heart of compassion. And I think it's important for me to say that because, most time people say, oh, you're heartless, you have no compassion. I mean, it takes a heart to be a nurse of 22 years. And so radio personality, and just most importantly, a yielded vessel unto the Lord, hence the name Yielded.
Thank you for sharing that, Yielded. Okay, so for all of you who have your journals out there, right, I hope that you just start, right? Mothers in different capacities, okay? Because we're already leaning in. So Yielded, an internal weather check-in, that's the next step in this journey we have together. Internal weather can be anything that you're experiencing inside. And I love for us to start with this so the audience also gets an idea of how they can start checking in with themselves when they're not sure how they feel, right? It's just like, what's your internal weather then, right? Is it stormy? Is it sunny? In your own words, what's your internal weather like right now?
I would say that it's sunny, peaceful, definitely a peaceful place, because I love the opportunity of being able to share on any level, any platform, just the opportunity one-on-one in the grocery store to give people different perspectives and an opportunity to maybe see a person in a way that they've not seen them before, and just, be able to meet people where they are. So.
Beautiful. Meeting people. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. So we've got this image, we've got the internal weather here. We see how Yielded is already experiencing this before telling the moment. And the moment that you shared with me, right? I have people, for audience out there who don't know, right? They send in a survey and a form, and it lets me know sort of what is this moment titled, right? If it were the title of the movie or like a book chapter, right? And the title that Yielded gave me was My Mom, Your Mom, They Ain't the Same. Right. And then what Yielded was hoping that people are going to take away by the end of this episode, right, is that people will come to understand the importance of another's truth. And from what I'm hearing already, it's the multiple truths that exist from mothers.
Definitely.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to roll it up over here, quiet it down. I'm going to roll the ball over to you. Would you share your story in a nutshell with us, your moment?
In a nutshell, I would say that my childhood was probably not the typical childhood. Lived in a drug-infested home. Endured. My siblings were older, 8 and 5 years older, and due to the lifestyle that we had, my sister, of course, had graduated high school. My brother was living a riotous kind of lifestyle, into older women, things of that nature, and so I'm home along with my mom, that is actively using drugs. My house was kind of the hangout for everybody's recreation. And so, there's abuse, physical, mental, emotional, all types of abuse. And it kind of led me to retreat within myself and to, I just have to say it the way I know how to say it, get it how I live, to make ends meet for myself, in every capacity, financially, whatever it is that I needed. I had to figure it out more so myself. And so kind of led to some not so exciting moments and happy places in my life, and just kind of, I feel like I did not have that direct connection with my mom, because of the drugs, because of, the abuse and things of that nature. And so just kind of, yeah, so it's just a lot of disconnect and separation from my mom. And so throughout that, again, having to make provisions for myself at an early age kind of led me to, we have this mindset of what's right and what's wrong. I had my own right and my own wrong. And as a result of that, just kind of being hurtled out into the world, not necessarily, I think I was, let's say, survival mode competent, but not necessarily emotionally competent, definitely not socially competent. My socialization skills were a 0. So
a 0?
I would say a 0 because it was like, as a child, I was quiet. Even throughout school, I would stay quiet for the fear of people knowing my life and something happening that I couldn't control. And so I was kind of quiet, and my only communication was nonverbal, and it was physical typically. I was a fighter. If you say hello to me, I may cuss you and hit you just because like somebody's in my personal space or what have you. And so from that place, just kind of moving out into the world as an adult, at an early age, kind of an emancipated minor, just kind of doing the very best I could with what I had. And just kind of living life on life's terms and making whatever decision I made at that moment to survive.
To survive. So we keep
Yes.
coming back to this, right? This survival mode, survival mode, survival mode.
Yes.
Okay. I've been taking some notes over here. I'm ready to explore some of these moments, but is this the story in a nutshell? Do we miss anything that you want to share?
Just even as an adult, trying to, I've been married, had my own kids, and trying to repair or reconcile that relationship. And it's an ongoing, just an ongoing chaotic place, just a toxic place. Within 10 to 15 minutes of being in my mom's presence, it's something that becomes insulting, something, an attack of some sort, sometimes even physical. And so, yeah, just trying to repair that and trying to.
From mom, from you, just so I have clarification, is or maybe on both ends, when you say that it becomes an attack after 10 to 15 minutes.
Typically she would attack me, and of course I'm coming back.
Yeah.
So, it's like, you don't have the right to talk to me that way. And most times it's at my house, because I've learned that being in her space gives her this control that she loves. And so if I would visit or see her, it would always be, I would pick her up and bring her to my house. And of course, being in different cities, I live in Houston and she's still in East Texas. So I would go and pick her up and bring her here for an opportunity to hang out, to do whatever, just, mother-daughter kind of situation. And again, like within first 10, 15 minutes, it's something negative. It's something, you're not this, or you can't do that, or whatever. And so it would just kind of change the whole path of the visit. And so after, constant places of trying to reconcile, trying to spend those moments, it got to a point that it's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna allow anyone, mom, no, whomever, to disrupt my peace, disrupt my space, to disrespect me. And so at this point, it's very, very minimal conversation between my mom and I. And the title, or, like you said, the movie's title was My Mom, Your Mom. They ain't the same. They're not the same. And it's because when I have these conversations with people, it's like, oh, well, that's your mom. You only get one mom. What does that mean?
To let her do anything to you, like you're
I only get one. And my response typically is to them, she only gets one Lakeithia, she only gets one of me. So yeah. Absolutely. But I think that is the story in a nutshell. And at this point, my mom's health has kind of deteriorated as a result of her lifestyle and just different health issues and the comorbidities that go along with that. And just, and now it's this, oh, well, I'm your mom. You're supposed to do this for me, and you're supposed to take care of me. And then the fact that I'm a nurse, she really feels that I'm supposed to do X, Y, Z, and 1, 2, 3. And it's like, truthfully, I tell my brothers and my sisters, I don't have that for her. I don't have that compassion. I don't have that love. And I always tell them jokingly, but serious, my aunt would always say, cracking and facking. I'm cracking a joke, but I'm telling a fact at the same time, that if in the event that something were to happen to her and she would need, that 24-hour care or to live with someone or something, I couldn't be that person. I could not be that person, because I don't have that for her. So I tell them all the time, y'all better make provisions for your mom, because I can't take care of her and I will not take care of her. So
this is the daughter's capacity is what I'm hearing, right? I mean, we started this episode talking about my mom's capacity and really diversifying what that looks like for a mother's capacity, but this is the daughter's capacity as well. And really our capacity as human beings for other beings.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
So that is my story. No real connection or communication with my children, who are her grandchildren.
She doesn't have that connection with them.
Yeah, she does not. She does not. My son, when I say your granny or your grandmother, he's like, "Who, your mom?" and his dad's mom is deceased. So that would be the only granny, but the question. So it's, and yeah.
Can't even identify her as that role, right? That
Right.
doesn't even click. It's like, oh yeah, she is the person who birthed my mother, right?
Right.
That distance, right? But she's
Right.
not my grandmother. She doesn't fit that role. She's not
Right.
embraced that role. Mm.
And then, my youngest son, like I said, his father's mom is deceased. So he doesn't even have that grandmother role to even compare. But when I say grandmother, it's like, oh yeah, your mom, so he really does not associate that with any role connected to him.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Beyond just the little bit that we just shared, first off, let me thank you for sharing a little bit of you with us.
Definitely.
Um, there is so much in here to explore, to expand on. Y'all, I hope you're taking notes out there because we went from mother's capacity to the capacity of the child, the offspring, however distance, whatever role you want to put on that. Do you identify as her daughter?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay. Okay. So this is important. And the reason why I ask about these roles, and I hope everyone out there is thinking about the different roles that Lakeithia here, right? Which is one of right, just so we know, yielded is Lakeithia for everybody out there. um, beyond talking about mothers and daughters capacity, just the roles in general that
Mhm.
we take on in what I refer to as like our individual culture islands. And one of the things that you said is, you had tried to make it work about 10 to 15 minutes in, there's this constant fight. So we have a pattern here of this like fight mode with mom, that's something that she engages in, probably because she doesn't have more capacity than 10 to 15 minutes. She can't be there for more than 10 to 15 minutes. That's like her capacity. And it's like, that's it. All of a sudden things start to become dangerous looking in her head. It's got the filter. She's got to go into the pattern of engagement
Mhm.
that she's used to, that she's been doing, it sounds like her whole life potentially.
Right.
And so when we think about these individual culture islands, which is again, that this is the language that I'll use with people, when we have that breakdown in between two islands and everybody's got their individual culture, just so we're clear out there, everybody gets an island. I feel like it's Oprah sometimes. She's like, you get an island, you get an island, you get an island, right? Everybody gets their own island. And
Right.
so one of the things that you said, Yielded, was, that you had tried it and then you realized she doesn't really have right time, energy, capacity for this. And so it became more distance for you, right? To
Mhm.
protect yourself, it became more distance. To protect your island, you had to set up a boundary.
Definitely.
And a lot of people, I think, will struggle. They'll be like very binary thinking on it, very black and white, like all in or all nothing. Like I don't have any relationship with my mother. I cut her off, or I got to keep doing for my mom because she's doing the best she can, and it's not her fault that she's struggles with drugs or sex or whatever the case is, right? That mom
Right.
is with,
Right.
and there's no gray. But what I'm hearing is, Yielded, you are courageously willing to live in the gray and say, I'm not going to cut her off 100%. And I'm not going to be her caretaker for the rest of her life because that's not my responsibility.
Right.
When you think about the relationship you presently have with your mother, genuine question, is it the relationship that you want to have with her now?
Oh, definitely not. No.
No. If you could redefine that relationship, what would it look like for you in an ideal world if we dared to dream?
It definitely would be more and more love, more compassion, more time together, just being able to, even build that relationship, because I don't think we even have that. I don't think we've ever had it. And I tell a lot of people when I hear myself, talk about it, I say, I don't even think my mom knows me as an adult. She knows who or what I was as a child, and her misconception, based on that survival mode or whatever survival tactic I would use, she probably would consider that as being a bad kid or things of that nature, but it was just pure survival. And because I fought a lot in my high school years, again, for kids can be very harsh, and I
Oh, yeah.
probably look the way most people did as far as dress and clothes, because I was in survival mode. And I was heavy, just due to various things. And so, it just was, it was hard. And so if you say anything, I'm fighting. And so I guess to back to your question, I really would love for the relationship to be mended and then even to be established,
Mm.
because I don't think we've ever really had any sort of connection. Because
Is Go ahead.
even before, my sister graduated, my sister
Yeah.
was like my mom. She did everything for me. She combed my hair, she dressed me, she got me ready for school. I was like her very own personal live baby doll.
Mhm.
And then she had her own son when I was 8. And so, my sister was a teen mom. And so it was kind of like, okay, now I have my own kid. I got to take care of my kid. And so I was just kind of, pushed aside, and she did the very best that she could, because she was a kid, she was
Mhm.
14, 15 years old, with 2 children, so to speak. And then,
Mhm.
my wild, crazy brother, boys are wild, crazy. But so being able to just establish that relationship for my mom to actually see me and to know me. I have a business. I mean, it's not a service that she would utilize. She's never been there. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
had 2 boys. She was not there for the birth of either of them. Been married and divorced twice. She was not there for the marriage or the divorce.
Mhm.
And so, it's just like, I mean, graduated from nursing school, just major accomplishments that I can't even timestamp my mom being a part of any of it.
Mm. I mean, I'm hearing it. Always fix this if I get it wrong, Yielded, right? I'm hearing mom has incredibly limited capacity for anything outside her internal experience, whatever might be happening for her.
You're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. I would almost think you talked to her. But yeah, I mean, and it's definitely all about her every opportunity. And if it's not about her, that's when the chaos starts.
Yes. Right. There is this image that's coming to me that I sometimes talk about with people who don't understand. I usually use this image with families who don't understand why their loved one can't just get it together, whether
Right.
it's they're struggling with addiction or mental health, trauma, it doesn't matter what it is. Why can't they just get it together? They can't see it, right?
Right.
And they'll say, we're giving them resources, we're giving them love, we're giving them whatever it is that the resources are, right? Every family has a different resource that
Right.
they're offering. And I will have to sit there and share with them, your loved one has lived in a world where the landscape has been shadowed, dangerous territory, but it is known territory.
Right.
And the second you say, here's a map, look at all the bright light we've got for you, open spaces, freedom, that is what's terrifying because it's unknown. And so I hear, right, we got limited capacity here
Mhm.
with mom. And I'm thinking of this image of the map. And it's like the light is scary, the being showing up for other people is scary, having to be vulnerable is terrifying.
Mhm.
And I think, how do we redefine this relationship and get yielded what she needs from this relationship if mom's capacity never can move beyond?
Yeah. And I think I have in my mind and in my heart pretty much given up on it. And especially with her health being at the place that it is. At one point, at the peak of COVID, we thought she had gotten COVID,
Yeah.
but she had basically gone into renal failure and began to drown in her own body fluids and ended up on a ventilator and the whole nine with that. And the one thing that people was like, oh, well, you need to go and you need to go and see, and the only thing that I could come up with in my mind is it's well with my soul. Whatever happens at that point, I was perfectly okay with it. And so
Mm.
that brought me, even as she made progression and was released from the hospital or whatever, it brought me to a place and space in my mind that I'm really okay with not having that relationship with her. And the only thing that it actually that triggers it is
Mhm.
that she'll do these random calls or these text messages, and it's always, oh, I love you, I miss you, why don't you come and see me? And the very minute that I don't respond back, I mean minutes.
Mhm.
You could be doing anything and not return a text, but if I don't respond immediately, it becomes insulting, and you're this and you're that and you're a bad daughter, and oh, and I'm keeping it mild for the sake of your viewers, but I'm talking about every explicit
Mhm.
word that you can think of in that. And then it's an attack on my children, and just, I mean, even the craziest thing, I mean, one of the latest things that has just kind of shut me down, and I'm just being full transparent here, is she has threatened to call the police or have my son, my oldest son, arrested about some finances, something that she gave him when he got ready to leave to go to the military. And now she wants it back. She needs it back. And to me, with this climate of where everything has been with, and I just have to be open and honest, with little Black boys and police, is just like, you would even dare to threaten my son with that. That to me says that you have no compassion, no concern for his life, for even what's going, like you said, nothing outside of her immediate internal whatever, to even know that this is not a day and time or climate that you can even play around with that thing. And so, yeah, so I'm really, and it's moments like that that kind of get me back to the place that I'm okay with not having that relationship. And again, being a believer, people will say, oh, if she's your mom, you have to forgive her. I have forgiven her. There's nothing to forgive her for. Oh, y'all need to get over that. There's nothing to get over. It's, and that's where that my mom, your mom, they're not the same, because people say, oh, but that's your mom. Don't tell me that. That is one thing that just, when you say trigger, that triggers me, because it's like, I just want to start swinging on people.
100%.
Say that.
You can say whatever you want here. We just mark the episode explicit or not explicit.
Yeah, right. So yeah, just, it brings me to a point of just pure anger for people to continuously tell me that. And so I've just kind of not gotten into conversations with people, because it's like, we don't have the time, the energy, or the mental capacity to even have this conversation, because you don't know enough to tell me what you're telling me, which is, oh, that's your mom. You got to forgive her. You got to move on. And if you're a believer, you have to. And the one thing that I say, I know that it's right in my heart, and that God knows exactly what's in my heart. And so I'm okay with what you think. I'm okay with that.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I wish I could just frame this part of the episode, especially what you just said, is gold. There's so many golden nuggets you've already dropped, but this part in particular, the reality of you being able to own your truth, feel comfortable with your truth, know that it is your truth, right? Has spoken with God, no, right? Your relationship is right with God, relationship is right? Whatever this is for you, you know that this is right for you. You've done the work, the emotional labor, right?
Mhm.
And for somebody else to step in and say, let me cast my story on you, Lakeithia, right? Let me cast my story on you and say, your mother needs to be right. You need to do the things I would do, right? And one of the roles actually that you pulled in, for those of you who may or may not have caught it, is believer, right? If you're a believer, then you must respond this way, which is this super conditioned box of what it is to be a believer. You're either inside the box of believer or you're not a believer, right?
Right.
When it's like, can we diversify what it is to be a believer? Can I say, I don't know, this may not be your truth, right? But can I say, as a human being, I love my mother, and also I am not okay with the fact that she abused me, and also, right, I have forgiven her. There's nothing for me to get over, and also it wasn't okay that happened. I'm not going to be okay. I'm not going to pretend it's okay that happened, and also I'm not going to, beat her up for it. It was what it was. I've accepted it.
Right.
And we live in that complex space of owning our truth, the complexity of the truth, not the simple black and white in or out of the box.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, just two more things I think on this. It's like, this is just like, we could spend a whole day, right? Just
right.
like
Definitely.
the different this. The courage that you have had to come up here and own the complexity of your truth. I'm so grateful. I just want to just say this in this moment. I'm so grateful to just be able to hear your truth. Right. As a human being, thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things that is coming to mind for me that I definitely want people to hear, because it's a big part of how I exist in the world, but this podcast, why it was created at all, is the difference between powered and empowered living. And when we come from a powered space of living, somebody's always in a place of power and somebody always doesn't have the power. So when somebody says a line like, but she's your mother, you only get one mother, this puts mom in a place of power, and it means nobody else gets as much power as mom. That's a powered way of living.
Right.
We want to move from powered and oppressive ways of living to empowered ways of living. Mom gets to own her truth. Yeah, maybe she tried the best she could. Maybe she did the best that she could. You know what? It wasn't enough for me. That's still my truth. If she did, I can accept that that was her truth, and they don't know it's not enough for me. I love the line you said earlier. I only get one mom. She only gets one daughter. That's it. She only has one Lakeithia. That's it.
Definitely.
That is an empowered way of living. I bow to you. I bow to you as you live this way. I'm so grateful that you have shared with us.
Thank you.
It is not easy to live an empowered life.
Trust me, I get it. You're preaching to the choir here.
Right. But I think one of the things that people forget is, and I want you to fix this if I get it wrong, if you don't feel this is true, okay? That when you relinquish the desire for the powered life, for somebody to always be, and you choose to live an empowered life, what you actually find is liberation.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I agree 1000%. Definitely.
Mm.
Definitely.
Okay. We have gone through this story. There is more that we could talk about. We could talk about attachment styles. We could talk about trauma and what it does, right? When we talk about that survival mode, that being in that state of surviving versus thriving down the line, where you really get to get out of that space of survival and really get to enjoy and live to your fullest capacity. We could go on and on.
Definitely.
I've shared some psychoeducation pieces. I mean, there is some stuff that we could play with, but I almost feel like we already played with the idea of what is the relationship that you have with your mother presently? And if you could redefine that, would you? And you said, yeah, if I could, I would redefine it, right? I would have there be more love from her. I would grant her the capacity to love me the way that I deserve to be loved.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely would try. And even one of the things, because I have 2 grandchildren that she's never seen other than pictures and just recent conversation or text message going on and on about the police and things that she would do to my son and all of that. It's like, I'm like, is whatever dollar amount you're talking about worth this? And I sent her, multiple pictures of my grandchildren. And it's like, you would think at some point those kinds of things would kind of halt the conversation, but it was the constant, oh, I'm going to call and I'm filing charges and and it's never, and it's like, then I even went as far as to start pulling pictures back from when, times that we would all gather for, holidays at our house and censor those pictures thinking, at some point it's going to trigger something that says, hey, I'm missing out on these things, but it doesn't, it goes on and it's always a constant, you think you know more, you think you're smarter than, you think you're better than. I mean, I'm trying to give you an opportunity to establish or have a relationship with your great grandchildren, with your child, with your grandchild. But it's whatever that moment is that she's in, and it's 9 times out of every 10, it's always finances of some sort. Oh, I need money for this. Oh, well, heck, we all need money for something, and so your lifestyle hasn't precipitated an emergency on my end because you've chose what you chose. So but yeah, definitely would. It's a sad place sometimes, even through the holidays here. It's the, oh well, I've cooked all of these dinners, as opposed to saying, hey, I miss you guys, would you come over? Oh well, I've cooked for y'all and now I can't get anybody to fix me anything, and I can't even go to my children's house to eat, and this. I'm unable to do it now because of my health. But it's like, who wants to be around you with that? No.
She cannot see you all past her own internal chaos. And that is a shame.
Cannot.
I want to frame one of the lines that you just shared, right? That it's a sad place sometimes, because one of the things that we didn't touch on yet in this episode is the grief of not having the parent that you deserve. And I don't want to say deserve in the case of like, if I'm a good person, I have this, or if I've done these things. I mean, in the place of as a human being, as a soul, when you come into this world, just to have someone who's capable of seeing you, who has capacity to care for you in a way that allows you to grow and flourish.
Definitely.
And a lot of people struggle with that. The reality of they keep trying to make the parent, right, who it is that they wish they would be, instead of experiencing the grief that this person does not have capacity to be that person.
And I've actually just had on my aunt, my mom's sister.
Mm,
Uh, we have these constant conversations about, these things, because my aunt moved away also, at a young age, but she moved with my great grandmother, so she was kind of separate from her siblings, and to know the life that they live in comparison to the life she lived is baffling to her. And so when she and I have these conversations, and I mean, it's like we've had these conversations for years, and
mhm.
it'll be something that I would say to her, and she's like, oh my God, I never knew that happened. Oh my God, I'm sorry that that happened. And it's like, just, I kind of lost my thought there where I was going, but just in having those kinds of experiences and trying to, talk through it, sometimes I find the emotional part of it, but, and I say a lot to most people, I've never had the opportunity of saying, oh, woe is me, because I've always had to continue on to the next thing. So maybe sometimes in my quiet time, maybe I deal with that part of grief.
Yeah.
And even in frustrated moments, I deal with that grief. And I say a lot to my children that um I'm still learning to what a mother looks like. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
24-year-old son, learning how to have that motherly love. And a lot of people will say that it's, mother's intuition. For whatever reason, I don't think that I got in line when God was passing that out. I don't think I have that. But it's like, even both times I said I've been married twice, I felt like both husbands were more maternal
Mm.
toward our children than I was. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make sure that they eat. I'm gonna make sure that they have the necessities of life. I'm gonna, but the cuddly, mushy, gushy stuff, I don't think I have that. And my 15-year-old has actually been instrumental in teaching me that, because he is the most mushy gushiest 15-year-old. But like right here now, it's like, don't ask me for a hug. I'll hug you when I want. But yeah, he's kind of taught me that over the years. I mean, he's always been a hugger, and I personally, I don't hug. I don't like to be hugged, but it's my son. He would like run and hug my legs. He, when he was a smaller
Yeah.
kid, all of that stuff that is a normal interaction.
Yeah.
But I used to cringe at that.
You
And so
used to cringe.
yes, yes, when my kiddos would embrace me, and
Yeah.
kind of, especially this younger one, like I said, I think he's probably, they're gonna see this. He's my bad kid. So say what I want to say, but I'm bad. I just demolished the entire house, but I'm gonna come and hug you and kiss you because I know I shouldn't have done that. And
Oh,
so
he's a
he's
Sour
always,
Patch Kid. Are you
yeah,
familiar with Sour Patch? First they're
yeah.
sour, then they're
So
sweet.
that is my youngest one, but he's very loving and affectionate. And
Mm.
like I said, when he would do those things, it's almost like, uh, okay, yeah, you know,
Vulnerable, too vulnerable to right. This is not
yeah,
safe. It wasn't on the map. And
yeah,
he's giving you the opportunity to what we refer to as like lean in on this, to
yeah.
keep leaning in and leaning in. Do you have more comfort for 5 being the most comfortable, mushy gushy you could be to 1 being, don't hug me, but I'll go like this. Where are you now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I would say it's situational.
Ooh, thank you for your honesty.
It's situational, because
Situation.
sometimes I can go one like quick, and then
Yeah.
sometimes I'm a total five. But
Ooh, ooh,
yeah,
but you didn't always have capacity for 5. Is that what I
yeah,
heard?
I did not always have
Change
that.
is possible.
Yeah, five. Look, five didn't even exist.
Oh gosh, I mean, this is can I just say we came full circle? I know we're gonna be wrapping up the episode soon. We just came full circle. Fix this if I get it wrong. At the top of this episode, when we were talking about you and your relationship with your mom, and you said, I would love it if we had this, right? Compassionate, good, right? More love there, but it would need to even be established because it didn't exist, right? You said, I don't even think it existed with me and my mom. And so when I hear this, right, my therapist cap comes on and it's like, okay, so we had a rupture, right? We had a rupture with the mother, right? With you and your mom, right? And then I think repair is optional, right? Ruptures are going to happen, but repair is optional. And if we can't get mom to repair, right, we've got to figure out how do we still potentially repair. And then I'm hearing you talk about now, near the end of the episode, you and your children and you as a mother. And I think snap, crackle, pop. Does Lakeithia yielded have the opportunity to repair that wound with her own children.
Mhm, mhm. Definitely. And that those grandbabies is a whole different situation. So yeah, definitely.
And for y'all just listening, you won't, if you go to YouTube, you'll be able to see Lakitha's face, how it just shifted. The warmth and melting features that just came into your face when you said those grandchildren are a
Yeah,
whole different.
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing on this journey. What a journey it has been. Okay, I will come to the wrapping up pieces now. Woo. We have set out right at the beginning of this to now, we've set out to transform hard conversations into teachable moments. Do you feel like we succeeded?
Um, I think so. I think people could definitely see this and come to a place of reality that my mom and their mom are not the same.
Mhm.
And so when you know have this idea of how that relationship should look, then people will be able to say, okay, maybe that hasn't been their story, and so this is their truth. And so I think so. I think we definitely gave that insight that some people may have not even seen. And trust me, we didn't even get into the nit and grit of it.
Mhm, mhm. Episode 2, stay tuned. But thank
It's
you
so
for sharing this bit at the end, because for everyone listening out there, right? Everybody has an individual experience and how they're even experiencing the world. So even if you have the same thing happen to you, you may be experiencing it very differently than the other person. Our individual cultures matter. What's happening on your island may not be what's happening on somebody else's island. So while this is the drama therapy imagery that I'm giving everybody, because that's where I come from, right? It's about owning your truth and letting other people own their truth. What is happening on their island is valid. What's happening in their life is valid, even
mhm,
if it is different from how you've experienced the world and known it.
definitely,
What a lesson to learn.
definitely.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to come back to your internal weather before we check out. What's going on with your internal weather now?
Um, I think I'm still in my sunny place.
Mhm.
Being able to and just hey, because this is dramatic therapy. Maybe look to my left and see some storm, but look to my right and see more sunshine.
Ooh, do you know what I'm gonna expand on this? Thank you so much for sharing this image, because do we hear how even this you can see more? You have greater capacity to see what's around you.
Definitely, definitely.
The courage it takes to lean in. And I thank you for being willing to explore your triggers as a human being with us today. This will be an incredibly rich episode for human beings out there wanting to diversify their perspective, in particular around mothers and children and
Def-
capacity.
Definitely.
Where can people find you? Where can people find you? Because they're going to want to find you.
Awesome, awesome. So I am a radio personality on Raise Praise 100. My show is every Tuesday, the Fire Show, where we bring a little heat to the word on the street. You can find us at raisethepraise100.com. You can find me personally as Yielded on Facebook, or you can find me on Instagram at IB Yielded, IBE Yielded. And I tell everybody, Yielded is not what I do, it's who I be, because I am a yielded vessel. Had to get to a place of brokenness to be able to basically give up my trajectory for what God has for me. And so I'm yielded, I'm submitted, I'm surrendered to all. So
I want to do a whole nother episode just on this last outro you just gave. Thank you so much. Everything that you just said is going to be in our show notes too. Okay, folks. So you don't have to rewind and be like, I missed it. Just scroll down to the show notes. It will be there. Okay.
awesome.
Thank you
Awesome.
so much for being with us. I'm incredibly grateful for the time, and that is what we planned for today, folks. So thank you so much for being willing to explore your triggers as a human being. If this has been helpful for you folks, if you have been moved, if you have had a new sense of perspective or a light come or seen the world in a new way, right? Please share this episode with someone else who you know needs to hear it. If you're like, man, I don't know anybody else who needs to hear this, but man, it really touched me. go give us that 5-star review and specify exactly which episode it was that you think was 5 stars for you. It's this episode, okay? So thank you so much. Spread the word. Let's continue to keep the dialogue going on how we transform hard conversations into teachable moments by exploring and playing with our triggers. Thank you so much for exploring. Stay curious.